Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever in the world you are, and welcome to this program. We're still talking about Zimbabwean elections today, and it seems like the Bulawayo High Court judgment, which barred 12 of CCC's MPs from participating, has had serious repercussions. And to help me discuss that, I've got Benjamin again. Welcome to you, Benjamin.
Thank you very much. Good evening to our viewers. Good morning, wherever you are, too. Thank you for joining us.
Well, the High Court decision, as we discussed the other day, was a foolish one. I am surprised, Benjamin, that ZANU-PF, whoever the decision makers are, besides Mnangagwa himself, have been sitting on this long. This is terrible.
I should agree with you that the decision was not very clever on whoever's part or whoever had a part in it. I think they kind of miscalculated that there are people out there that are doing the searching. I'm also very proud. I think it's Tim Pacheco that discovered this, while others are busy doing other things. These guys are the ones that are serious, trying to get, things to be, trying to level the ground as much as possible. And yet, they are not getting any help from either any opposition whatsoever. It just shows it's bad. But back to the topic, the High Court, I mean, we discussed it. The reasoning was shallow, was foolish. Now it has just sent, this whole thing spinning way out of control. I don't know how they're going to come back from this or how they're going to try and rectify it.
Well,
It's
let's discuss the consequences of the spin off. One of them is that because of these court challenges that are going on, ZEC has not printed the ballot papers for the parliamentary elections or the presidential elections. Now, according to the timetable, ZEC should have already sent out the ballots to those people who are entitled to vote by post so that they've got time to cast their vote, send them back. Of course, they haven't sent out the ballots because they haven't been printed yet. And we are looking at today is the 31st. Voting is on the 23rd. So if we consider this day done, we have got only 23 days to voting day. For you to print all those ballot papers, get them properly checked, send them out. For posting is already late, but even distributing them to the polling stations, it's going to be a mammoth logistic challenge, Ben.
Yeah, and taking into consideration the amount of polling stations that we have, I think it turns out that when you always rush things, you're bound to make so many mistakes, delivering wrong places and all that. The whole mix up. I think this whole thing is just so shambolic, to say the least. I think on Zek's part, they have never been transparent. So, too much hide and seek, and you're just bound to get yourself caught up in this whole web as you try and spin this so that all that. And unfortunately, the guys that are within ZANU-PF, the directors that are the powers that be, that control this organ, I don't think they've thought this through really now, because, well, you're talking about 23 days. It's impossible for them to print, because some, what the papers are saying, some cases are still in the lower courts, some cases are now at the high courts, some cases are now at the Supreme Court, and Tyson's one is way gone to the Constitutional Court. So it's now all these here, they have to deal with this here and find a solution to this whole problem. And like you were saying, we got 23 days. Today is already gone. I mean, there's no court that is open. And the court has not even stipulated the date where they're going to listen to these cases. And there's obviously going to be some people that are going to be, offended by the results, and they're going to want to take it higher. And they have the right to take it higher. Somebody can just decide, just for his sake and just to spite the other guys, to drag this thing right until the Constitutional Court, and is starting from the very, very low court, the provincial, the magistrate court. That's where he's going to imagine dragging it all the way. How are they going to fix this? It's now a mess. Then the timeline is already drawn. And unfortunately, Chigumba was the one that came out saying that come rain or high water, this thing must go. So here she is. She has to stand by her word.
No, I mean, it is something that you can't expect to change. The day of voting has been declared. And for Mnangagwa now to turn back and try to change that date is ridiculous. He's declared it. So that date is fixed. They should have come up with a timetable. In fact, they should have known the latest day for printing, so that we could send these postal ballots to the various, because remember, some of these are supposed to go all over the world, wherever there are Zimbabweans who are entitled to vote by post. And according to their timetable, that should have happened 3 weeks ago, so that those people have got time to cast their vote and then send them back. And as for in the country itself, I think they've got 7 days to the day when they've got to have those printed and sent out to the various centers. All the centers are supposed to get their ballot papers 7 days before voting day. So you're looking at a situation here where in the next 2 weeks, they've got to decide on these cases, because so far they haven't finalized who is going to be on the ballot and who is not. And I think in this case here, they should have also looked at maybe the court making that decision, so that ZEC doesn't have to make that decision. They could have said, okay, in the case of the presidential race, Kasukuwere will be on the ballot paper, or he's not going to be there. So that if he went through the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court was to decide in his favor, then he could appeal on that basis, that his name was not on the ballot paper and his case was accepted. But the other thing, of course, would have been to say the Constitutional Court should sit this, even if it means they sit during the weekend, So be it. We can't hold the whole nation to ransom just because of a court decision by 3 judges or whatever it is. Called out, even if they've got to sit out there until 3 o'clock in the morning to make up their decision. So be it. It's amazing how the regime has failed to see the agency of the whole matter. It really is embarrassing, Ben, that we are now looking at a situation here where, I mean, the deadline, for instance, for the postal vote, you can't turn back the clock. You know, what are they going to do now? They haven't even printed them yet.
I think, like I said, you know, when you are trying to, the problem is there's no transparency. You know, I'm trying to look at it. Let's look at it from an observer's point of view. The observer is already there, right? And I'm pretty sure they observe how, you know, pre-election, how the whole operation within ZEC is being run to try and find if, you know, they are doing things according to the constitution, and is it free and is it fair? How would you look at it, or what would be your judgment of this case as an observer, not as a Zimbabwean, but just from an observer's point of view?
Well, I think in this particular case, even the observers themselves must be equally surprised. They know they would have had a timetable that must be when Nkiri met. You know, if they're going to be postal votes, you expect them to have been sent by now. These are just some of the simple things that you'd expect to have happened. I think that whole court decision in Bulawayo, whoever made it, did not stop to think at all of the sheer repercussions of what is going to happen here. And I think somebody should have sat down and saying, okay, let's sort this one out. As soon as they realize this has got repercussions, because like I said to you the other day, this could not possibly have just happened in Bulawayo alone. And now, according to say some of the reports going around, up to 156 potential challenges are there. Because although their paperwork was collected before 4 o'clock, the processing itself would have been picked, the system would have picked it up after 4 o'clock. So they are immediately being disqualified. And it's not happening only in Bulawayo, it's all over the country. You know, like I was saying the other day. So now we've got a crisis. To be quite honest, if it was just maybe Bulawayo, they could say, well, okay, those 12 constituencies, the elections will not be held on the voting will not take place on the 23rd of August, like everywhere else. But everywhere else, people should proceed as normal. That's fine. But when they happen all over the country, you can tell this is just becoming more and more chaotic, you know, including the presidential election itself. Why he did not say if there was an appeal, the relevant court would sit and hear that appeal within 24 hours at the most. Let's get this sorted out. It's beggars belief. So now we've missed the postal votes. The prospect of the ballot papers not being printed on time is just unthinkable.
I really think, you know, it, like you said, it all started with this whole Bulawayo, MP fracas, and then all of a sudden it just, I don't think they thought they were, whoever started it, and I know it was started by ZANU PF activists, but I think they were quick to jump the gun. No, and they did not think people were going to go and look back and see how many were we that were standing together in the line trying to go and and put these nomination papers. So I'm sure it spread like like wildfire, and somebody told somebody, and investigations happened. But fine, I would say uh, it was somebody that didn't, obviously somebody did not do their homework, but the fact still remains. This is what happens when you have a process that is flawed, a process that is being rigged, that is not free, that is not fair, and lacks transparency and lacks traceability. Things are done in the dead of the night. Somebody gets wind of something that happened and then goes and make a case, come back, the whole process now is in jeopardy. And for me, as if I was an observer, this is an example of a failed, a failed process. We are failing to to run our own election. Something just at national level. It's not for, how can we be able to run bigger things if we're failing something is just a day's job, where people supposed to just do the things that they're supposing to do at a given time. I mean, if they had, like you always saying, they had 3 days, how do you end up not having this whole thing act? I simply cannot comprehend what is going on. I think it's just the work of somebody that is trying to manipulate the system some way. They failed to manipulate others. They figured out, Triple C, they got figured out by ZANU PF. ZANU PF got figured out by Tim Pachelu that, we're all in the same boat. And then now it's all mixed up. Somebody stirred it. And now, you can't separate it. It's a
Well,
mess.
I think somebody said this is just a case of Mnangagwa shooting himself in the foot. But I think this goes beyond just shooting oneself in the foot. In this case here, I think Mnangagwa is sat on a cannon and then fired it. I mean, the leg has been literally ripped off, and the shock effect of it was so much that he was knocked out completely, and so he has not been able to respond to it. But I think this kind of mess really emphasizes that Zimbabwe is a failed state, run
I
by buffoons who really don't know what they're doing, and this brings to the headlines that I've got there. I don't know whether it's fake from the Sunday Mail, because I don't know whether it's true that Mnangagwa will be, giving those headlines. But even if he did not, I'm sure he must be thinking of it. And the irony of it is that, of course, he's worrying about it and he's saying, "Oh, a coup can't remove me." I think Mugabe actually at one point said the same thing. But on the 15th of November, the year of our Lord 2017, the coup happened.
Yeah.
And
Nah, it's always been the case, it will never happen to me. In Shona, they always say, I didn't sorrow. There you see, he died a bitter man as guys that was like a you see. Unfortunately, this is what happens. And uh, as for, the president, Nangagwa, I think his operations are showing that he's not doing things in a smart way, but rather he's doing things by force. He's not using his brain. He's trying to force things to go through. And when you force things, you push until breaking point, and now things by all over him are falling apart, or they're falling to the side. You look at his party, ZANU PF as a whole. I don't think ZANU-PF is as strong as what people think it is. Yes, we know ZANU-PF people are loyal to you for now, and 2 minutes later they are out to impeach you. Ask Mugabe if he was alive; he would tell you, "I was with these guys in a meeting. By the time I got home, all these guys there were dancing for for my head." So this is exactly what is within his own party. And like I said, Mugabe never used to use power alone, but he used to use his head, and he knew how to control the people within his party and his structures. He knows how to build it. I think Mnangagwa doesn't have those. And now he's trying to pick one person from each department. Within ZEC, he's got his close friends, and he's shunned the others. The same people that he shunned are the same people that must have gone and said, no, 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 no. It's not just the 12. It's more than that. We were all working in the middle of the night. I mean, it is ZEC that said this. It's a press conference that came from ZEC. So ZEC sold out. So for me, he should be worried to say what's happening in my camp. And come to the opposition. I mean, I just lost 12 seats, and my opposition has just lost 56. Ah, guy, I would withdraw my case. I forget about that day and take the 44 with, right? I mean, you lose 12, you gain 44 from the 56. That's a good loss, right? So it's also for the opposition, the Triple C, and the rest of them to also wake up and see. It's I wouldn't be so happy because I got 12 back, because there's something that is happening in the background. Something caused this to happen. This malfunction is not something that just happens overnight, unless somebody manipulated the system somewhere, or something was happening behind closed doors. I would be the one to try and find out what exactly happened. Zek needs to explain this, and to the fullest, and the courts need to explain how they overturned the High Court, if it overturns, and why was that decision made in the first place, because that was a very foolish decision. We all figured that out. We have to know. I want to know what caused this to happen. Not we got back our 12 and we have won. No, no, no. That's foolish. That's not how you're supposed to think. If you want to be somebody that is aspiring to be a leader, you need to think outside the box. That's what I think.
well, the key thing about coups in Zimbabwe is that one of the justification actually for the coup in November 2017 was that Mugabe was no longer in control, and the house of cards was falling. And what is happening in Zimbabwe now, the chaos that has ensued because of the way that these elections are being handled that is the kind of thing where you're saying, well, Mnangagwa has lost control. He doesn't know what he's doing. And to be quite honest, it is chaotic. I mean, if you can't even run something as basic as free and fair, credible elections, if you're going to rig is one thing. But if you can't even get to the extent of, you can't even print the ballot papers on time, I think this is now going over the odds. Because if these elections are going to be postponed, it really is going to be seriously embarrassing on the country and on Mnangagwa and on ZANU-PF. And it is just absolutely amazing how this could have been allowed to continue to where we are. The next item I wanted to talk about is, maybe in closing, is passenger 34. Have you heard the latest on him?
The latest I heard, he was going on to the highest court of the land. Since he failed at the Supreme, now he's going to take his challenge to the Constitutional Court. But I mean, if with this whole circus now, I think if they are to overturn everything, I mean, everybody should just be let in or all mix. Why would you leave him out of it? It'll be part and parcel of it. It's a mess, really. It's sad. Yeah, have you got any latest news on him?
Well, there is a Twitter, and in it, in his usual boldness, he is claiming that they've run away with the boxing ring. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I mean, can you imagine, because they can't fight me, they've run away with a boxing ring.
Yeah.
But anyway, laughing aside, the point there is that I don't know whether he has successfully launched his appeal with the Supreme Court and that has been accepted. Because unless he has made the appeal and it has been accepted, then him just saying we are going to appeal doesn't count. So I haven't seen that the appeal papers have been accepted either.
Yes, the last I heard was, he was planning to take it to the highest court, which is the Constitutional Court. But I think, personally, Kasukuere has got no valid case. He knows the rules. He did not meet the criteria, and he says his only defense is that he was sick, and he's got no doctor's letter to prove he was sick or bedridden or whatever the case is. And it's he's saying that the judges are compromised, but then funny enough, he's dragging it throughout the courts of compromised judges. So I don't know what he's expecting. Well, I don't even think the judges will rule in his favor, since he's actually accusing them of being corrupt. They are just going to be so angry with him. It's going to be I think he's gone. Maybe better luck next time. There's always 2030.
I totally agree. I think passenger 34 is just pushing his luck. But anyway, do you like to make your closing remarks on today's submission?
Well, I personally think, for Zimbabweans to actually enjoy the one man, one vote, and free, fair, and credible elections, we need to have transparency. We need to have reforms that separate, you know, government and party, and the institutions, different institutions. The judiciary should be independent, away from all this. Our our electoral bodies should be independent, without influence from government. you know that way we can actually stop this. We are now a circus. We are now a laughing stock, that these guys here, they cannot even run their own their own affairs when it comes to elections. You will become an example, and Zimbabwe has turned itself into a bad example. We are the worst when it comes to bad, to bad things. We are always ranked the last, and we were nothing good to say about anymore about Zimbabwe, which is quite sad, because we cannot separate these things. We need reforms. This is just one of the embarrassments that we are going through. There is a lot now. People getting beaten up, people getting frog march, recordings of these things actually happening. People in government are actually doing this to people, and they're not even shy anymore, with no remorse. This is sad, and I just hope that Zimbabweans can look beyond this and see the need for us to call on reforms first, before all this here, all rigged elections and coming up with strategies. That is all nonsense. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much, Ben. My some remarks would be that if the time is ticking, if we fail to print the ballot papers and distribute them to the polling stations, this would be the final straw that broke the camel's back. We can't even print the ballot papers and get them to the polling stations. That's really shocking. There are other challenging tasks to be carried out during elections, but surely that one should be routine. We should have had already lined up which company is going to do the printing of the ballot papers, and it will just be giving the final go ahead to print. And whoever was doing the printing, they would have told you these are the deadlines. If things are going to be done the last minute, if the printers have got to work overtime, that could cost the country a fortune. If the people carrying out the logistics have got to do it the last time as well, that is also costly. And I can foresee a situation where we are building up other problems in the voting just because the ballot papers were printed late. Just another dimension in the whole process of the election. I don't know. I honestly think, I hope this issue is resolved in the next day or two, and the decision is made to go ahead and print the ballot papers. This is becoming totally, totally unacceptable. I don't know how they handle the postal votes, but for those who are, for instance, on official duties within the country itself, they could be told that maybe they need to go to specific polling stations, say 5 days before the voting day, so that they could cast their votes there. Those who are going to be involved in officiating over the process, and not deny them the vote. And then the rest of the country, no stone should be left unturned to make sure that ballots are in every polling station on time. This is not rocket science. It's ridiculous that we've come to this point where already we are off the timetable to get the ballots delivered, all because somebody made an incredibly stupid decision at the High Court, designed to disadvantage the opposition, and it clearly has backfired on the regime itself, because it is now the regime that is under the spotlight. I hope to God this issue is sorted out, and sorted out quickly. There is absolutely no excuse why this ridiculous situation has been allowed to develop. And to Mnangagwa, sort it out. For Pete's sake, sort it out. It can't be a nation that can't even get the ballot papers printed and distributed on time. For God's sake. And to the listeners, thank you very much. And hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to announce to you that, yes, we are back on track and the ballot papers are being printed. And I hope this is the last time we hear of the issue of the ballot papers. They'll be printed on time, distributed on time, so that if there's any vote rigging, let's see that vote rigging somewhere else and not to have it because of the chaotic way that the whole voting system is being handled. Thank you very much for listening, and good night.
Good night.
Well, Grace thinks that's wishful thinking on you, Ben, on that one.
Yes, I know, my sister. It's just my plight. I say with what is inside my heart. But I know, realistically speaking, I sound like a broken vessel. Nobody's going to listen to it.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks very much, Grace, for your comments as well. Thank you. And everybody, good night. And hopefully tomorrow will bring the good news for a change.